Okay.
Okay, fine. Shall we continue?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now the question is that why we need biodiversity? Why biodiversity is important? We know that it provides us food, fodder, fruit, fuel, timber, medicine, whatnot. It provides us everything in our day-to-day. Is there anybody who can say that I am not using a part of biodiversity? No individual can claim it, because directly or indirectly, one way or the other, you are dependent on, everyone is dependent upon the biodiversity, even including animals, microbes, everyone. So that is why the variation that exists among all living entities is equally important. As far as mankind is concerned, it provides everything. Now, based on its utilization, very broadly, it can be categorized into different types. For example, the commercial value of biodiversity. Oil, fertilizers, etc. are extracted from the species of plants and animals. You know that from shark, the oil is extracted. Charcoferol tonic is manufactured to meet the requirement of the patients suffering from iron deficiency, or ferradol, another tonic. Likewise, oil. Pongami oil is used in the manufacture of soaps and other things. Neem oil, eucalyptus oil. Likewise, many such type of products which have been obtained from the plants or animals are going to be marketed for some prices. So it has got a commercial value. So based on that, we can say biodiversity, some species are having commercial value. The second value of biodiversity, that is the value that is attributed to biodiversity, is biological value. Now this biological value revolves around pollination, soil formation, nutrient enrichment. We know that all plants and animals die. When these plants and animals die, their body is subjected to decomposition by microbes, and they add to the please mute. There's somebody talking. Please mute.
Mailara, sir.
ಸರ್ ಯಾರೋ ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ಜೋರ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದೀರಾ, ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ನಿಲ್ಸಿ, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನನಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗಲ್ಲ. Okay, the biological value attributed to biodiversity, it may be in terms of soil formation, nutrient enrichment, and pollination. We know that when all these organisms, plants and animals die and their body is subjected to decomposition, so they add to all the organic matter is added to the soil, and thereby they also enrich the nutrients that are decomposed from the dead animals and plants, including the human beings. So that value, we call it as the biological value. For the decomposition of these bodies, we need the varieties of microorganisms, isn't it? So, and all of us, we know that we eat plenty of fruits, whether it is oranges, mosambis, or lemon for that matter, and mango. Various and varieties of fruits are going to be utilized by mankind. From where do we get these fruits? From the plants, from the trees. How a tree or a plant is going to produce this fruit? It is after pollination. What is pollination? Pollination is nothing but carrying of the pollen grains from one flower of a plant to another flower of a plant is called pollination. So we know that during pollination, the male gametes are transferred to the female flower, and when the male gamete enters into the female flower, fertilization takes place. After fertilization, the fruit formation and seed setting takes place. So this is a routine thing in nature. So after pollination, fertilization takes place to produce the fruits and seeds. So among the flowering plants, remember, among the flowering plants, for the formation of the fruits and seeds, pollination is a must. Pollination is an essential criteria or essential method that is required. Now, how this pollination is brought about? The pollen grains from one flower of a plant to another flower of a plant. Who is going to carry these things? These are being carried by various agents. Who are these agents? It may be air, it may be water, or even it may be the living entities. The living entities which carry the pollen grains from one plant, one flower to another plant or another flower is called a biological agent. Who are these biological agents? These biological agents are nothing but animals. And among animals, especially the insects, insect group. And remember, number one pollinating agent in the world is butterfly. So butterflies are the number one pollinating agents who carry this pollen grain from one flower to another flower of a plant, helping in the fruit formation and seed setting. Followed by butterflies, honeybees. Honeybees are ranking number two in affecting this pollination to result in the formation of fruits and seeds. Now, in other words, different varieties of butterflies, different types of honeybees, they are all helpful in the pollination phenomenon. If you claim that you are a scientist, I am a plant breeder, I don't want any other pollinating agent, I am ready to do. Like that, if you start right from, say for example, in a mango plant, you want to carry the pollen grain from male flower to the female flower and affect pollination and fertilization. In your lifetime, you have produced hardly 20 fruits or 30 fruits. Think of the entire world population needs so much of what? Mango fruits. So natural pollinating agents are nothing but the butterflies or honeybees. Likewise, if the habitat of these honeybees or butterflies, or if the trees or the flowering plants of these butterflies are being cut, deforestation, if at all, has been made, where do you get the enormous quantity of production of fruits and seeds? So just I am giving you an example of, likewise, all the fruits and seeds that are going to be formed across the world is basically because of these pollinating agents, especially the biological agents. If this biodiversity is going to be disturbed, the pollination is going to be affected. If pollination is going to be affected, the production of fruits and seeds are going to come down. And if it comes down, the demand is going to increase. When the demand is increasing, the price will automatically shoot up. So, in a chain-like manner, everything is going to be affected. Right from a resource to an economy and development, everything is disrupted. So, that is why biodiversity has an important biological value to form these things. Now, recreational value of biodiversity, which cannot be measured in terms of money. Suppose when you become so much desperate or disappointed or something has been worried, right? You want to relax yourself with a freshness of mind. So at that time, what you will do? You will go to a beautiful place where there is no disturbance, no noise, no such sort of any pollutions or something else like that which can harm you. So you want to sit at a place and relax yourself looking at the beauty of the nature. And sometimes you want to see and enjoy the sight of an animal. Say the peacock are dancing, you will enjoy. You don't want to come out till you want to take the pleasure of it. So that means that value through which you derive a lot of what we can say pleasure or happiness by looking at the biodiversity is referred to as the recreational value. Looking at the beautiful sight of a flower or nature, you derive a lot of pleasure, which cannot be measured in terms of money. That is what is referred to as the recreational value. Aesthetic value. After looking at the beauty of a plant or an animal or nature or a group, you will be inspired to write some art. You may paint something. You may paint the what we can say the appearance of a plant or a climber or a flower. Likewise, you may write a poem or a poetry. You may write some essay type literature or stories, something else like that. So you will be inspired to write something after looking at the beauty of this, what we can say, the biodiversity. So for example, there are many people I have seen who will start writing, just for tell you, in Kannada, after looking at somebody, they will say, Balliyante Balukuvade, Hamsadante Nadayuvade. So you are comparing it, your walking style to a climber or to a Hamsa, something like that. So that means all these things you are making a comparison in relation with your day-to-day activities. So you are being inspired to write so many things. Sometimes literature you may write, painting you can do it about a plant or an animal. So likewise, for example, Kuempu has become a nature's poet. Do you know? Because he has spent most of his times also on the bank of Tunga River, looking at the beauty of that nature in the Kuppalli, in the forest, right? So he was inspired to write many things. Even Wordsworth is considered as a nature's poet because he has inspired looking at the beauty of many things he has written. So, likewise, that value that is attributed for biodiversity is called aesthetic value. That inspirational source that you derive from looking at the biodiversity once again cannot be measured in terms of money. The scientific value of biodiversity is the gene pool, evolution, and human welfare. I told you while telling you about the genetic diversity. No two individuals is having the same genetic makeup. Now, during the process of evolution, if you trace out whether it is a plant or an animal, including human beings, through natural hybridization from two different individuals, one more new individual have been evolved. From simple organisms, a complex advanced organism has come to exist on this earth. For that, for that gene pool, greater the gene pool, greater will be the scope for the evolution. Greater will be the scope for evolution. Now, to simplify it, I will tell you. Suppose the gene pool, there is no genetic variation among the individuals you consider among human beings. If there is no genetic variation, if both all gents, if they look like a Muslim man, or a well-built man, and if all ladies look like the same kind of right appearance, how do you differentiate between your partners? How do you make selection? That is not possible. So that is why nature has inculcated the different genes, right? Gene arrangements in your body, isn't it? Very naturally. And when you want to say, for example, you are a bachelor, you want to search for a bride, how do you make a selection? The girl should be thin, or she should be fat, she should be medium, she should be white, she should be whitish, she should be black, she should be that way, this way. So many choices you are going to make. Likewise, the vice versa. If a girl wants to look at a boy, he should be tall, he should be this way, that way, like that. They have got their own choice. But all these choices will come to your mind, right, according to your taste. If you want to make it, you will look at the individual. So that variation, if at all has to be there, there must be the genetic variation. There must be the genetic variation. So greater the genetic variation, greater will be the choice for you. Greater will be the choice for you. For example, greater the varieties of food. Say different kinds of fruits, sapota, mango, apple, grapes, pomegranate, many such type of varieties of food are there. You are going to make a choice according to your liking. So greater the such variation, greater the such genetic varieties, so greater will be the chances for hybridization. Greater will be the chances for selection of your partner, selection of your what chance and choice for breeding. So that is what is being provided by the biodiversity. So natural hybridization between plants and plants or animal to animal has taken place because of this genetic diversity. So greater the such scope for genetic pool or gene pool, we call it as. So the gene pool is nothing but the assemblage of the genes, or in other words, the assemblage of different varieties of species, individuals of species in a geographical area constitute genetic pool. When a butterfly wants to suck the nectar, it doesn't go on towards only one flower of one plant. It keeps on moving from one flower to another flower of another plant, another plant, another plant. Look at this. So that means greater the such type of what we can say the varieties of plants and animals, so greater will be the gene pool. So greater will be the chances for the genetic makeup. So scientifically we say greater the gene pool, greater will be the scope for genetic recombination. Greater the genetic recombination, greater will be the scope for adaptation. So greater the scope for adaptation and greater will be the chance for evolution. Greater the evolution, greater will be the speciation. Likewise, so we shall not go into the scientific steps involved in this evolution or the gene pool. Just I am telling you, greater the genetic diversity will be there. So you can make use of this particular gene pool. For example, even today at your home, if you want to produce a newer variety of say a rose plant or a hibiscus plant, so you will go for grafting. So to go for grafting, you must always have a wild species stock, isn't it? You must have a wild species stock. Then only you can go for grafting and you can produce a newer variety. Without a wild species of a wild rose or a wild hibiscus, you cannot produce a newer variety of the individual. So that is why the scientific value of the gene pool is essential. Now, in this context, I would also like to tell you that greater the gene pool, that means greater the variation of gene pool from one individual to another individual. Say, in case of human beings, an individual get married to another individual, right, from different biogeographical area, if it is there, it will be still fine because, hey, for example, you are in Mysore, to this environment conditions, and here you have been evolved and developed, and you have got certain set of genes which can adapt very well to this climatic condition. Suppose you go to a girl from Rajasthan desert area, and if you get married, that lady may not be able to survive in Mysore because of she may feel cold here and you may feel too much of hot there. So your adaptation also depends upon what? The genetic makeup that is in your body, isn't it? How best it is going to withstand you to adapt and survive. So likewise, gene pool value is of so much of what we can say importance in the evolution of a new species or a new individual. So that value we call it as the scientific value, which has been very naturally taking place among the individuals. Now, what is an economist and an ecologist, and over a period of time when they made lot of research activities and they could estimate the value of a tree. Suppose a tree that lives for 50 years, if it is going to be cut, how much you are going to be met with loss? So to estimate that one, so now they have made, and a tree that lives for 50 years generates, you just imagine, rupees 5.3 lakhs worth of oxygen. 5.3 lakhs worth of oxygen. A tree that is living for 50 years gives you oxygen. How it is going to be, sorry, how it is going to be estimated and all these things, there are various methodologies by which. Now we shall not go into the details of methodology of the estimation of all these things. Just I am telling you what is the worth of a tree that lives for 50 years. So it gives about 5.3 lakhs worth of oxygen, and it facilitates about 6.4 lakhs worth of soil erosion control. You know that the trees, through their root system, bind the soil together. If the trees are cut, the soil get exposed. If the soil get exposed, erosion takes place. That is either by water or by high wind velocities. So accordingly, it is called water erosion or wind erosion. So to prevent soil erosion, what we should do is that we should grow the plants right nearby as closely as possible, and see that these plants should form a vegetative cover on the surface, on the land. So if these trees or plants are cut, the soil get exposed. Thus, from a single tree, it is going to bind the soil. It can prevent the soil erosion control worth about 6.4 lakh worth of soil erosion control. And it creates about 10.5 lakhs worth of air pollution control. It is not only even air, even water pollution control. We have not added here. See, air pollution. Trees are considered to be the best biofilters of all possible pollutants, all possible types of pollutants. So whatever the air pollutants that are given out to the atmosphere or dumped into the atmosphere, they are being absorbed by the plants, their vegetative cover. So in spite of absorbing all these air pollutants, they are going to give you the oxygen. They are going to give you the oxygen. They purify the air. By absorption of the pollutants and by giving out oxygen, they are helpful in the purification of the air. So how much of air pollution control is brought about by a tree is about 10.5 lakhs. And a tree provides about 5.3 lakhs worth of shelter for birds and animals. 5.3 lakhs worth of shelter for birds and animals. To construct a house, right, to bring in bricks, labor work, cement, so many things you are going to estimate it. Likewise, if a bird is going to pick up the fibers from various things, its labor, its cost. Likewise, in the sense, there are some means by which they could assess about the work value of these things. A tree that can provide shelter, so for birds, which is about 5.3 lakhs. Similarly, a tree that lives for 50 years is capable of recycling about 6.4 lakhs worth of fertility through its branches, twigs, fruits, seeds, many things that is going to be falling on the soil. They undergo decomposition, and when they undergo decomposition, nutrients are going to be released back into the soil. So whatever the nutrients that are there in the soil were taken up by the plants, and once again it will be recycled, and likewise for in a period of 50 years it is going to bring about the fertility of the soil to a tune of 6.4 lakhs. Besides that, it is going to provide flowers, fruits, and timber. Thus, when a tree is felled, it is something worth about 33 point. So worth about 33.9 lakhs. So now we should question ourselves. When a person is going to be dead, how much worth he is? How much worth he is? Your children will assess how much of property you are leaving behind. Otherwise, if you don't have any property for your children, he will say you are a wasteful individual. Right? Now, likewise, if you cut a tree, look at how much of loss we are going to meet with, along with its importance, along with its value. How many trees are there in India? Some estimation has been made. Among highly populous countries, right? India has a tree population of only 35 billion, leading to just 28 trees per person. In India, you are having only 28 trees per person for your utilization. You may feel, oh, it is enough for me, like that you may say, but there are so many things for which you need a tree, isn't it? Then compared to Brazil, which has 301 billion trees, that is almost 1,494 trees per person. Canada is having 318 billion trees, that is 8,953 per person. And in China, we are having about 139 billion population of trees, 102 trees per person. Though Chinese are ranking number 1 in human population, they are having 102 trees per person, as against that of Indians, wherein we are having just 28 trees per person. Now, with this much of trees, you think where we stand in terms of having the what we can say, the resources? Are we not threatening our resources? Now, by looking at all these things, I would like to say, what are all the threats to biodiversity? Sorry, 1 minute. Yes, there are various threats. Though biodiversity is so much important for mankind and for all individuals, see, look at deforestation and overgrazing is the major factor which is threatening the existence of our biodiversity. We are continuously cutting the plants, trees. So we have become over greedy, and we, for many of our day-to-day purposes, see, first you are going to settle on the margins of the forest land, then slowly you will encroach the forest land, either for cultivation or for housing or for something else like that, and you start gradually cutting the trees. So thereby you are doing the deforestation. It has been reported that for the past 95 years, from the last in the last 95 years, about 15.38% of the forest cover has been lost across the globe. About 15.38% of the forest cover has been lost globally in the last 95 years. So, to such an extent, if at all we are continuously cutting the forest, we know that very well carbon dioxide concentration in the atmosphere is going to increase, because it is the trees, it is the vegetative cover, it is the green plants which are capable of absorbing the carbon dioxide, as they utilize this carbon dioxide during photosynthesis, food manufacture, food preparation, isn't it? So, if this concentration of carbon dioxide is increased because of the decrease in the forest cover, remember it acts as a greenhouse gas causing global warming and climate change. So, that is what is the impact. Now, similarly, overgrazing. We are allowing our cattle. As I told you already, India is ranking number 1 in cattle population. So we are allowing all our cattle to feed on or graze on or browse on the many shoots and juveniles of our plants. So where do you allow them? You allow them in the field, either into a forest or in a grassland elsewhere. They keep on grazing. You know that when young developing new shoots of the plants are being grazed by the cattle, it never allow the plants to grow at all. So thus overgrazing is also another problem which may threaten many biodiversity, because once you keep on allow your cattle to graze, there will be no vegetative cover. The forest cover will be automatically decreased, which in turn affects the wild animals to make their survival in a forest, and thereby you are threatening the biodiversity. Habitat destruction and fragmentation of the area. Yes, whatever the land that is meant for a particular cause, we are not maintaining it. We are using and abusing the land like anything. Habitat destruction, whatever the habitat, the place of living meant for the wild animals, we are not allowing them to live like that. So we are just simply taking away every habitat through our various means. And added to that, we are also fragmenting the land for various purposes. See, habitat destruction. So, whatever the land that is meant for cultivation or for forest, you are cutting down all these things. So, a forest land you are making into a cultivable land. A cultivable land you are making into a cement jungle. So if a farmer is working in a field, suppose he is met with say loss or problems or decrease in yield or something else, like instead of encouraging a farmer, instead of improving the economy of a farmer, instead of advising and helping him to practice the scientific methods of cultivation, what we are doing is that why do you toil in the hearts and right from morning till evening throughout there? Hardly you may get 1 lakh or 2 lakhs profit. Instead, you convert this land into layouts. If you make layouts, you can mint money like anything. Lakhs and lakhs, even you can become crorepati. And you can deposit all the money in a bank and lifelong you can keep on what? Eating without what? Working in the field. What he will eat? He will eat only the cement. A day will come. To that extent, we are not encouraging the farmers, wherein even the cultivable lands are being also misused for the purpose of construction of the houses or industries or something else like that, establishment of for various purposes. Now, what happens is that when habitat is being destructed, either because of discharge of industrial effluents or domestic sewage or fragmentation. With respect to fragmentation, I will tell you, suppose you are having 1 acre of land, and if you are having two children, what will you do? You will divide it into equally half an acre for your two children. And what they will do? They will what? Fence it. They mark their boundary and fence it. And each of them, when they grew up, once again, if they are having two children, they will once again divide the land, isn't it? So quarter an acre, quarter an acre. Likewise, if you keep on fragmenting the land availability for the growing of the crops increases or decreases? Automatically decreases. So a decrease in the crops, right, will also automatically decreases the productivity. So similarly, in a forest land meant for exclusively the forest area or for the forest and wildlife, if at all it is being fragmented, say some this much of boundary I should take it for house construction, this much I should take it for bungalow construction, this much for rest house construction. Likewise, if you can keep on doing these things, and also the dwellers in the on the margins of the forest, if they keep on encroaching the land and thereby using some land for cultivation, some land for their domestic purpose, likewise. So if you keep on fragmenting the land, it decreases the biological diversity, it reduces the productivity. So instead of fragmenting a land, as I told you, in a cultivable land, 1 acre, if instead of dividing it, if it is as it is, you can see a better productivity and a better growth of the plants. That we are not practicing. So instead, we are destroying all our habitat by indiscriminately discharging all possible effluents, pollutants onto our land and aquatic surfaces. And also we are fragmenting the land for many purposes. And this has resulted in threatening the survival of biodiversity. Threatening. So it has been estimated that 67% of the loss of biodiversity is because of the habitat destruction. So 67% of the loss of biodiversity across the world is because of habitat destruction. Now, another threatening factor is poaching and hunting for flesh, fur, skin, horn, nail, and even for recreation. Why do you want to kill an animal for a flesh or a fur or a skin? Without that, can't you make a livelihood? Right? There are many people who are killing these animals, right? Knowingly or unknowingly, legally or illegally. In total, all the anthropogenic activities are threatening the biodiversity. So in this context, I would like to say that in the year 1900, around 40,000 was the population of tigers in India. 40,000 population, 40,000 individuals of tiger were there. And by 1972, they have estimated it was going to be around 3,784, something like that. Around 3,780 plus, right? In a span of just 72 years, You just imagine how much of population of tiger has been reduced from 4,000 to mere 3,000 plus. That means such an enormous, what we can say, killing of the tigers have taken place. What might be the reason behind this? So, what did these poachers or these hunters have done it? That means they used to kill this tiger and they used to sell the every part of the tiger for various countries, especially for China, Malaysia, Thailand, and all these places. In their system of medicinal practices, every part of the tiger is important for treating various diseases. Various diseases. For example, the hairs on the tiger, they used to prepare a medicine in Chinese system that is used to cure the burns. ಸುಟ್ಟಗಾಯಗಳನ್ನು ಕ್ಯೂರ್ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ they used to prepare a medicine, right? So likewise, even the tiger bone powder is used in the manufacture of various medicines. The testis of a tiger is used to be taken to prepare a medicine that is used to cure the, what we can say, that tuberculosis diseases, the lymph nodes, right? TB of the lymph nodes in human beings. Likewise, every part, even this brain of the tiger, they used to prepare a medicine that if at all you consume that medicine, so it is used to cure laziness, right? And even some parts they are going to use it in the manufacture of a medicine that is used to cure pimples. Likewise, every part of the tiger has got its own medicinal value. Let me not go into the details of each and every part here. I'm just telling you how these various, right, parts of the tiger have been used, right? And 1 gram tiger bone powder in international market, 1 gram bone of tiger powder, that is tiger bone powder, costs in international market about 550 US dollars. 550 US dollars. As an average, from a single tiger, about 11 kg of bones are going to be obtained. 11 kg of bones. So you just imagine 11 kg of bones into grams, into dollars, into money, you convert how much money you could have wasted it. Now, because of, in order to become a rich person overnight, some people have resorted to this type of poaching and hunting and all these things, resulting in threatening the population of tiger. So we should thank to the then Prime Minister, Mrs. Indira Gandhi, who could do this Project Tiger in 1973 to protect this animal. And that's how it has been made national animal also. And from then onwards, we are trying to protect this, what we can say, the tiger. Okay. Now, I am just giving it as an example because likewise there are many animals that we have been threatened through through poaching and hunting activity. It may be for anything like a flesh or a fur or a skin or horn, which is not at all required. Without that we can live. Now another factor that is threatening our biodiversity is forest fire, including smoking in the woods. You go for a picnic, along with your students, and you will put campfire, especially in the nights, and the students will dance around that campfire, and you will be tired without tending the fire carefully. So you will return back and take rest. And by the time morning you get up, and if you see a forest fire has broken, that means, in the sense, forest fire has been resulted. It is because if you don't carefully tend the fire, what happens is that because of the wind velocities, and if it is a deciduous forest, immediately the fire spreads like anything. So that is one thing. And some people smoke when they are walking in the forest and threw away their cigarettes or BDs or anything else, and a small, right, what we can say, a dried material which come across this type of things catches fire and immediately it starts spreading. So that is another thing, smoking. Now sometimes intentional forest fire to take revenge. We have seen in at some places these lower, what we can say, lower ranking officials, if they want to take the higher ranking of revenge against the higher ranking officials, What they will do, they themselves lit the fire intentionally in a forest to take revenge against the bossism or attitude of their higher officials, and thereby it may also result in the forest fire. Sometimes these smugglers, what they will do, if it is a vast area of a forest, at one end they are going to lit the fire and they draw the attention of all the forest officials or anybody towards that direction to tend the fire carefully, and from the opposite direction they take away whatever that they want from the forest. They loot the forest wealth. So that is how intentional forest fires may also be resulted. Ultimately, all these, and of course, accidental forest fire occur at a lower frequency or a lower percentage, but put together, all these things are responsible for threatening the biodiversity. Then, one more important, what we can say, threatening factor for biodiversity is over exploitation of the resources. We are not going to be happy with whatever that we are having. We want to continuously take and take and take and dump it in our backyard like. So over exploitation of the resources. Do you know how much we are taking? Over exploitation. So more than 37% of the loss of biodiversity is because of over exploitation of the resources. I will tell you, for example, in our house we require furniture. To require furniture or door, what we require, we could have taken any fast growing plant tree species and we could have manufactured this, what we can say, furniture. Every one of us want rosewood or teak wood. Every one of us want rosewood or teak wood. And genetically superior stocks, very strong woods, because they are the strong woods, especially the rosewood, I will tell you with respect to rosewood. So it looks very hard, very beautiful, very hardest wood, and it is called the king of woods. And India is the home of this rosewood. Very, very superior stocks are available in the Western Ghats. Tamil Nadu and Kerala are the treasure houses of this rosewood. So somebody says rosewood dining table, rosewood furniture, right? Rosewood doors or teak wood. Likewise, we are interested and we are going to take it. It is a very costly wood. Per cubic feet, about 4,000 to 5,000 rupees is the cost in the international market. Right. Even in Brazil also this rosewood is available. That is a different species. In India we call it as Dalbergia latifolia, and in Brazil we call it as Dalbergia nigra, which is commonly called palisanda in Brazil. But both these rosewoods are competing in the international market, and Indian rosewoods is ranking always number one with respect to its, what we can say, price value because of its quality. And this rosewood, right from a seedling to give the mature wood, it takes about 80 to 100 years or even more than that. It is a very slow growing tree species. Now, we people are interested in making rosewood. What for? To make the front door of a house, back door of a house. No thief should enter into our house. And dining table, right? And your chairs, furniture should be made up of rosewood only, quality rosewood. Because if you eat in a sitting, it's all a pseudo prestige that we are practicing it. I'm telling you. Why? If you sit on a rosewood dining table and a chair and eat the food, is it only digested? If you sit on a floor and eat the food, can't it be digested? Suppose you are in the need of a real dining table, why do you go for a costliest wood like rosewood? It takes 80 to 100 years to mature, and it is the best wood, no doubt. And your lifespan is just 61.5 years. Your lifespan is 61.5 years. And whereas that of an American is around 82 years, average lifespan. So you are going to live for about 61.5 years or 62 years, even if you consider. Why do you need a rose? There are many, like jali or acacias or neem wood or something else like that. You could have prepared. They are all very fast growing, but this rosewood is a slow growing species. So it doesn't mean that you should not have utilized it. Even if you have used this rosewood, have you bothered to grow a sapling of this rosewood in its natural habitat or anywhere else? Have you bothered to grow this population of this rosewood? So the population rosewood is coming down, coming down, coming down. So that is because of, and somebody will say, oh, this type of rosewood is not available. Now if it is available, you please take it in future also. It doesn't get spoiled. Somebody will say, you take, if it is available for a cheaper rate, like that you feel, and take it and dump it in your backyard. Oh, let it be available for my future generation. Future generation, even the children are not born, you want to keep it for future generation. So that means you are going to dump in your backyard. This is not the way of what conserving or protecting your what biodiversity. So likewise, we have exploited. For example, I will tell you another example. Ravalfia serpentina, it is commonly called serpentine plant. So from which a reserpine alkaloid is extracted, which is used, wherein they used to prepare a medicine that is used to cure blood pressure, and also it is used against the snake bites. So once upon a time, I have seen in the state of Karnataka, it was growing like a grass in many places, especially in Shimoga district. Now today, even if you scan and scavenge the entire Shimoga district, you do not get even a single plant. That means you have overexploited it for many things, right? And you are not bothered to multiply it or protect it. If a snake bites or if blood pressure is there, so you should live with it and you should die. That means, as an example, I am telling you, likewise, there are many such potential plants and animals that were aboard in the Western Ghat regions of India or Karnataka, which we are carelessly, ruthlessly exploited for meeting our requirement. That is how we have threatened the biodiversity. Natural calamities like floods, high wind velocities, earthquakes, you know it, how tsunami and such type of floods take place because of high wind velocities and other things. Even many biodiversity have been lost and they are threatened with losing their life. Now, the most important threatening that we come across nowadays is the pollution of various kinds and release of toxic substances. We are releasing everything, whatever that we are doing, all our activities. If the waste is generated, dump it into a forest or dump it into a water body, right? Thereby, we have cleaned the area, you feel, isn't it? So there are many aquatic animals which may be threatened for their life activities. If you dump it on the land surface without proper scientific disposal methods, what will happen? The tree cover or the vegetative cover may be lost. So likewise, pollution of various kinds. Remember, plants are the best biofilters of both air pollutants and water pollutants. Suppose you are moving on a bank of a river, and if you drink a river water, nothing will happen to your throat, isn't it? Nothing will happen to your throat, because even though the river sometimes you get it polluted, the leaves, twigs, branches that are fallen into the water, they are capable of absorbing all the toxic substances, what we can call it as biosorption. So they absorb all these pollutants and toxicants and purify the water very naturally in a natural water body. That is why even if you drink, nothing will happen to your throat. But look at, if you destroy the plants all along the, what we can say, a river side or a pond side or a lake side, what will happen? So they are dumped with pollutants to a greater load and which may affect. So thus, the pollution load, as much as if you keep on adding it will threaten definitely the aquatic life. If you keep on polluting the water body, so the availability of dissolved oxygen for many aquatic organisms is decreased, and you can see unwanted plants, we feel like that eichhornia, water hyacinth and all such type of plants will grow, and a greens come like algae will grow, they form water blooms, the entire surface of water body appears to be green, and such highly polluted water body, we call it as eutrophicated water. So all these things have been resulted because of the pollution. So many good plants or many good aquatic animals, they all will die. They are suffocated to die. So that's how it will threaten the biodiversity. Soil erosion and loss of soil nutrients. As I said, when the trees are cut, now what we are doing, right? Urbanization, modernization, through all such activities. When trees are being cut in the name of development of a developmental project or something else like that, so what happens is that the soil get exposed. When the soil get exposed, the top fertile soil is removed either by high wind velocity, which we call it as wind erosion, or by flooding, right? Or by floods, which we call it as water erosion. So ultimately, it results in the removal of the top fertile soil and renders the soil unfit for cultivation of any plant or tree. So according to a report from Tata Energy Research Institute, TERI, in India, it has been reported that 5,300 million tons of fertile soil is eroded every year. So 5,300 million tons of fertile soil is eroded every year in India, right? Because of this, what we can say, the deforestation activity. Now, another threatening factor for biodiversity is population pressure and unequal distribution of the resources. So we are increasing in our population. Our resources present in the area is limited, and we are not distributing, we are not judiciously using our resources. What is happening is haves are suppressing the have-nots. That is also another reason. So that means we have become more greedy. We want to use and keep it, store it, store it, store it. So protection and conservation doesn't mean that cut and everything, kill everything and keep it in refrigerator life. It is not the attitude. So sharing and caring for each other for every type of resource, whether it is a water resource or forest resource or any such type of resource. So we should have the practice. That is, you should develop the feeling of oneness. Until and unless you develop that one, we cannot protect our biodiversity. That's how we are putting lot of pressure because of unequal distribution of the resources on our natural resources. And of course, our population, as we increase, we need more and more resources. Thereby, we want to easily available resources, the natural resource. So exploit this, we are exploiting this biodiversity. In addition to that, agricultural expansion, spreading urbanization and development of industries. Look at this. As we grow in our population, we need more houses. And we need more houses, that means cultivable land. And does it mean that we don't need crops to eat? So we are forgetting that basic concept. So we are misguiding a farmer even to make layouts. And none of us are having, generally speaking, I am telling you that most of the people are having more than one house, right? For a family of 4 individuals, one house is sufficient. They want to have 2 houses, 3 houses, plenty of houses, one here in Mysore, one in Delhi, one in Bangalore, one in Bombay. Why do you want to have it, all these things? So if you are having one house extra, do you want to give it to another one? No, 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 no. It is for my children, right? It is for my grandchildren. It is for my. So this is what is. We are not having the basic human ethics. Just because we are in the form of a human being, we are not real human beings. Unless we practice the quality of the human qualities of sharing and caring and wisely using our resources, that which we are not practicing, thereby we are abusing the agricultural land, we are encroaching the forest land, we are urbanizing, and we are establishing the industries. So where is the availability of the land for biodiversity? Because from biodiversity only you get everything. So thereby all these factors are threatening our biodiversity. Even construction of hydroelectric power projects. Everyone wants to construct these projects or power plants, etc., amidst of a forest. Why do you go for amidst of a forest? Because a person who is interested in constructing this project wants to get all the raw materials from the forest resources, which is easily accessible and available, isn't it? So you do not know, when many such power plants have been established, what are all the vital species that we have lost. I have seen, for example, the Kaiga power plant that has been established in the Karwar, what was the biodiversity that were existing earlier, and what is the present biodiversity that we are seeing. More than 60-70% of the natural wild varieties of species and plants have been lost in that area, which would have been come to the welfare of mankind in terms of medicines or in terms of food or in terms of any such type of needs. But all these things we have lost it because of such construction activities. Now, additionally, climatic changes like depletion of ozone, global warming, increased concentration of carbon dioxide, mining activities and quarrying. So climatic changes, as I told you, if you keep on cutting the forest, the carbon dioxide concentration increases in the atmosphere. So in addition to carbon dioxide, right, what we can say, this methane gas, we are having very good cattle population, isn't it? It has been estimated that from a single cow, about 73,000 liters of methane is produced annually. 73,000 liters of methane is produced annually by a single cow. Now we are ranking number 1 in cattle population. How much of methane has been uploaded into the atmosphere? You imagine. With all these things, what happens is that the radiation, solar radiations that are striking the Earth's surface, when they want to go back, they never escape out of the atmospheric layer because of the increased concentration of these things, and act as an umbrella, and wherein all these re-radiated rays, they never escape out of this, and they strike these layers and re-radiate back to the Earth's surface. And remember, solar radiations carry the energy particles, high energy particles. When high amount of energy is continuously striking the Earth's surface get heated up, which you call it as global warming, isn't it? So likewise, many such changes are taking place because of the deforestation, pollution, and other anthropogenic activities, and this results in automatically a climate change, an increased temperature, and a depletion of ozone. So ozone is getting depleted because we are all using refrigerators, air coolers, air conditions, which release the CFCs, chlorofluorocarbons, which destroy the ozone layer, and thereby the UV radiations are penetrating back to the Earth's surface. And once again, that is also another reason for causing global warming. Now, the cumulative effect is that we are altering the climatic conditions, isn't it? So, any altered such climatic conditions is not going to support the existence of biodiversity in a healthy manner. A sudden change may also bring about a depletion in biodiversity. Now, in addition to that, mining activities and quarrying. So, mining activity normally, say for example, if you do it in Kudremukh earlier, now they have stopped it. Likewise, in any area, forested area, if you can do it, the dust particles that are given out from such mining activities may get deposited on the foliage of the plants, on the foliage of the trees. When these dust particulate matters are being deposited on the foliage, the photosynthetic area, that is the sunlight absorption area on the leaf surface, decreases. Sorry, excuse me. The photosynthetic area decreases because the light rays cannot be absorbed if the dust particles are deposited on the leaf surface or the vegetative cover. So when the solar radiations absorption is decreased, the amount of food preparation also decreases. That means productivity decreases. If productivity decreases, you have to struggle for getting your food energy. The population will be the ultimate target. So thereby, that is why mining activities or quarrying activities is never for a betterment. And added to that, when you doing these activities, the higher sized particulate matters if they are going to be striking the leaf or the surface of a skin or the body of an animal, they damage the tissues, they may break the leaves, they may result in, right, damage of any of these things, causing even the health of biodiversity may be at stake. So thus all mining activities, right? And even when they are doing it, you will suddenly explode a what we can say dynamo, isn't it? By that sound and these things, sometimes the animals may get killed, isn't it? They may die. So all such type of activities should be stopped, and these are also another reason as to how we are threatening the biodiversity. Last but not the least, lack of awareness. Now, knowing the importance of biodiversity, knowing our activities, we always say to protect this biodiversity, to prevent pollution, to conserve natural resources. Oh, we are all educated, we do have awareness, we say. Are we really having this awareness? Today, if at all the forests are surviving, it is because of the tribal fellow, right, who is dwelling in the forest for a loaf of bread and butter. So he is conserving or he is protecting the forest. But whereas we are all what? To have a sophisticated life, modernized life, without caring, without bothering the multiplication of resources, judicious management of the resources, we are threatening our biodiversity. Now, who really wants the awareness? Right. Now, if we do not have the right, if we do not realize the importance of this biodiversity, what would be the ecological consequences if there is a reduction in biodiversity? As I told you earlier, global warming may take place, increased pollution. If there are no trees, there will be no absorption of the pollutants. Even through the root system, the industrial discharge, the industrial effluents, domestic sewage containing various pollutants and toxic substances. So all these things are being absorbed by the root system of the plants. So if these are going to be lost, what will happen? So automatically pollution will increase. Soil erosion and loss of fertility. If the trees are cut, if deforestation is taking place, what happens? So the toils, as I told you, the soil gets, the top soil, the fertile soil get eroded, which does not support the vegetation. Decomposition rate by microbes is altered. So every microbe requires a specific temperature, specific condition for carrying out its decomposition activity. That may be affected. Nutrient cycling is altered. So then reduces gene pool, affects speciation. That means if there is no biodiversity, if there is no too much of choices of the individuals, as I told you, there will be no chance for survival. So no chance for evolution of a new species. So the food chain may get altered, which flows from the producers, that is from the plants to the animals to the human beings, like in this, it may get altered. And alteration in hydrologic cycle. Alteration in hydrologic cycle. Hydrologic cycle means water evaporates from the water bodies like oceans, pools, ponds, lakes, rivers, etc. And also the excess of water that is absorbed by the plant is released into the atmosphere in the form of water vapors through the process of transpiration. So both with this phenomenon of evaporation and transpiration, water is released into the atmosphere in the form of water vapors. These water vapors condense in the atmosphere and reaches back to the earth's surface as rainfall or precipitation. Once again, after rainfall or precipitation, the water is absorbed by the plants, water is stored right in the pools, ponds, lakes, rivers, oceans, etc. And likewise, it is a continuous phenomenon, evaporation and transpiration, and then condensation, and once again reaching back to the earth's surface. So this cycle, we call it as the water cycle or hydrologic cycle. It has been scientifically estimated that to have a normal hydrologic cycle in any area, water should evaporate. How much of water should evaporate from the surfaces on this earth? It has been scientifically estimated that from about 85,000 cubic miles of oceans, 85,000 cubic miles of oceans, the water should evaporate. Water should evaporate. From about 15,000 square kilometers of land surface, the water should what? Escape into the atmosphere, especially if I say land surface, through the plants, through transpiration. So, thus from terrestrial, that is from the land surfaces of about 15,000 square kilometer, the water should evaporate into the atmosphere, and from oceanic surfaces from about 85,000 cubic kilometers, right? This water should evaporate. That means to have a normal hydrological cycle, this much of water should evaporate into the atmosphere. But today we are having the pollution, marine pollution or water pollution, right? Which is not allowing you the expected rate of what we can say evaporation. Similarly, we are cutting the forest. So this has resulted in the altered hydrologic cycle. Now, as I told you, just I am showing you. See, in 2020, 411.28 ppm was the global carbon dioxide concentration. The same carbon dioxide concentration last year it was 408.52 ppm. So that means every year we are increasing our carbon dioxide concentration. In 2000, it was somewhere around 283 ppm. In the year 2000, it was 283 ppm. Look at how much of carbon dioxide concentration we have increased. So if forests are the only source to sink this much of concentration to have a healthier climate. So if global warming takes place, there will be melting of glaciers, sea level rise. So once again, the polar bears and all other animals in the polar regions will be at stake. So a day may come during such climate change, isn't it? Even because of an increase in sea level rise, the land mass may submerge. Even a day may come, the human beings may also get, isn't it, into the water body. So the result of global warming, hope you can understand that one. Now, what are the solutions to all these problems? I will just give you the telegraphical, what we can say, the information related to this conservation. So conservation is the only measures, is the only hope for protection of biodiversity. So we should maintain the integrity of the habitat. Habitat should not be destructed. It should be maintained so that any individual may reproduce very well and thrive very well. Prevention and control of forest fire. So one should not allow the fires to break out. And in case if at all is there, it should be carefully tended and thoroughly extinguished. So we should protect the forest fire. Excessive cutting should be eliminated. So one should not overexploit the resources. Once you cut a plant, it should be replaced by growing a new seedling of the same plant. So that is how excessive cutting should be eliminated. Fragmentation of the area should not be made, because if you fragment the land, it decreases the productivity as well as the biological diversity. So that should be minimized. Fragmentation of the forest area always decreases the biological diversity. That should be minimized. Protection of forest from illicit felling and overgrazing. We should not allow the cattle to overgraze, and we should not indiscriminately cut the trees. And we should establish the genetically superior plants and animals, which we call it as, that is, any part from which we can multiply an individual, say seed or a root or any part, we call it as germplasm. And if we protect it and preserve it, in future we can make use of them for their multiplication. And such storage of the multiplying units, we call them as germplasm banks. So that should be established to conserve the biodiversity. If the principles and procedures of social forestry are followed, the stress on the exploitation of renewable forest resource can be minimized. In simple words, growing of the tree crops, growing of the tree crops in a wasteland, according to the need of the people in the vicinity, according to the need of the people in the vicinity. People may require, they may be in the need of food or fodder or medicine or timber, whatever that they need. Such type of species we should identify and grow them in their wasteland, right? So that is what is the concept of social forestry, so that we can avoid people going and cutting the plants in the forest. So through social forestry program, through wasteland development program, through afforestation or reforestation program, the biodiversity can be conserved or protected. Conservation of endangered and endemic species, right, should be given importance, because these are required for future breeding programs of plants or animals. So we should always conserve these, what we can say, endangered and endemic species. And also we should use non-wood based resources for the establishment of energy plants. There are certain